Hey guys, you might hear some nature in the background because I've left the door open. I hope it adds a bit of ambiance, but if it pisses you off, my bad. It won't happen again. I've been having a little tan outside and I thought I'd pop in while the lighting's still good and give you guys the long-awaited update on the James Charles Kayla saga. I'm not gonna regurgitate everything that I talked about in my last video. It's literally the video before this video, so just watch that one, come back here, I'll link in the description if I remember. If not, it's literally the video before this one. But it talks about James Charles being friendly. He claims it's now less, everyone does that. Friends with Kayla, did her makeup for this collab they did together. She was dating Evan Johnson, who was just an awful guy. Obviously there was a lot of emotional, physical in that relationship, and he was arrested and then bailed out by, I believe, his family. No one still kind of 100% knows, but I think it was like either his mum or his sister. And then James Charles was accused of being romantically / sexually intertwined with Evan Johnson after the allegations, and after Kayla already told him what had basically happened. James Charles has now actually responded to these allegations. So this video is now on 46.1 million views, and he had actually lost followers on TikTok before he did this response video. Now he's gained, and then I think he's actually on more than he was before the allegation, but I can't quite confirm that. Anyway, a lot of people are eating up this apology, and I'm gonna go into this from the get-go telling you guys that, like, I'm not eating it up. I think it's absolute BS. And actually, I'm gonna preface this with, I would be a hypocrite if I accepted this response, because it's the same response that Sophia LaCourte gave, even though her situation was so much less aggressive. Like, Hallie and her boyfriend broke up, Sophia went on a date with him, Hallie and her boyfriend are now back together. Sophia got ate the fuck up on the internet, okay, simply because it was a shitty thing to do, arguably. If we then don't hold James Charles to the same standard, then we were only having a go at Sophia because she's a woman. Like, that is the tea and the shade of it all. And also, James Charles isn't just dating someone's ex, he was sexually interested in someone who domestically abused one of his friends, who he claims is like not that much of a friend. But like, I wouldn't have to be besties with someone to not date their ex. Like, I would have to just be acquaintances with you, because why would I want to do that? Are so little men attracted to James Charles that he has to pick the other? Like, is it so bad out there in the streets for James Charles that he has to sleep with an allegedly? And everything I say now is obviously prefaced with allegedly, because James Charles is throwing like lawsuit threats about. So allegedly he did that.
I do not support Evan Johnson in any way, shape, or form. Let me make that clear. I don't support him, I don't support violence against women, and I sure as hell do not support the disgusting, deplorable, violent, heinous acts that he committed against Kayla Malik behind closed doors. I really hope and pray that when this goes to court this week, Kayla gets justice for what that man put her through. At the same time, the videos that I'm currently seeing all over my For You page are disturbing to me. This is not TikTok tea and drama for everyone else's entertainment. This is real people dealing with some really serious shit. The conversation has completely shifted focus away from Kayla Malik and how she was brave enough to speak out about...
I always think it's really convenient for people to say, oh, the conversation has shifted from something very important to this. It's like, we are not all one-track minded people. I feel like I've been saying that through all the big dramas. Everyone always uses that as an excuse to be like, let's focus on this. Why are we focusing on this? And it's like, most of us have pretty complex brains, and we are able to focus on two things at the same time. Sometimes even more. Like, I think I could focus on like 3 things at the same time.
She went through to how James Charles involved, the downfall, By Sister 2.0, where's the apology video? It's distracting from the actual issue at hand, which is domestic violence. I have not spoken out about this for a couple of different reasons. The main one being, this is going to court this week. Anything I or anybody else says online can and probably will be used by either Evan's defense attorney or the judge to affect the outcome of its ruling. And I didn't want to put Kayla at any risk for that.
How would James Charles sleeping with Evan Johnson make Evan Johnson less guilty? Like, it just wouldn't. Ow, I've got something in my eye. I don't know, I think it's just a pretty crappy excuse, but...
Hate that I'm getting online and filming this video right now, but I truthfully have no other choice, because I've also spent the last several weeks trying to get in contact with the only person involved in this that actually matters and needs to hear the truth, and that's Kayla Malik. And she has been unwilling to have a conversation with me. And frankly, I don't blame her. After I watched the laughable interview between Be Better and Zach Sellers, I wouldn't want to have a conversation with me either if I was being fed complete bullshit, lies, and misinformation from the person whose only source of information is the same man that lied to and abused me for 9 months straight. At this point, I have no choice other than to get online, tell my story, and then prove my story to be true in a court of law. I am suing Zach Sellers and anybody else that thinks it's funny or entertaining to get online and spread defamatory and slanderous lies, misinformation, completely bullshit made up stories for the sake of views, likes, engagement, and galaxies. I'm done. This all started at the beginning of 2025 when I reached out to Kayla about her and Evan being in a Valentine's Day video together. She told me she couldn't. She was crashing out because they had just broken up because he was crazy. I tried to lighten the mood a little bit and make a lighthearted joke asking could I have him now.
So he said, do you want to be in a painted video with your man? I'm not even joking, this made me piss. I broke up with him last night. I saw your story and was crashing out. LMAO, tune in for the 30-part Who the Did I Marry series with love hearts. And he said, what? And she said, girl, he's crazy. And he said, what happened? Can I have him now? LMFAO, I'm so sorry, Kayla, you deserve better. And then she said, imagine like the worst things a human can do to you. It would take hours to text it, but you'll see the series soon because what the LMAO, but thank you so much. Congrats on all the painted love. And he said, oh God, you're actually doing a series on it? I'm sorry. But like, she couldn't have made it more clear without actually saying what happened. She said, I'm doing the 30-part Who the Did I Marry series, which was about like an emotional abuser, liar, pathological, like psychopath, okay? And then she says, the worst things a human can do to you. And people are saying, oh, now, you know, that James has provided evidence and receipts. I can see how he didn't know because she was being really vague. What's vague about imagine the worst things a human can do to you? What's vague about that? Like, this is a reverse receipt. Like, you know, people post like reverse proof that actually just makes them look worse, but they think it's like doing something.
And then asked what actually happened between them. All she told me was that he did awful things to her and that I would find out more in her 30-part TikTok series.
He's also paraphrasing what she said to make it sound less bad. All she said was that he did some awful things to her. No. She said, I'm doing a 30-part Who the Did I Marry series, and imagine like the worst things a human can do to you. Not just he did some awful things. No, like the worst. Like I don't know why he's making it sound more vague. And if someone didn't pause to read the text and just listen to what James was saying, then yeah, it sounds like she was being really vague about it, and he had every right to try and pursue something, but no.
She said she was upset that she helped build his platform based off of lies and abuse, and whenever she was healed, she was going to get online and expose him. I'm going to be so honest. I did not take this conversation very seriously, and obviously, now knowing what we all do.
Why didn't you take that seriously? Is it because you're desperate? Because no guy is interested in you, or you're struggling to find... Oh my God, there's something literally in my eye. Anyway, the eye's just going to keep on getting more red. So, is it because, like, he's desperate again? Like, are we going to have a No More Lies 2.0? I was just desperate and blah, 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 blah. Because surely... He's like, oh, I didn't take it seriously. She said, he did the worst things a human being can do to you. Oh, I didn't take it too seriously. Oh, but now that I've seen the evidence, it's like even men in such female-dominated spaces like the beauty industry who are surrounded by women all day, every day, because the beauty industry is still quite heavily women-dominated. So someone who's friends with a lot of women, hangs out with a lot of women, is in a female-dominated space, still behaves like someone who's not surrounded by women every day. Like still, it's kind of like... Oh, I didn't believe you until I saw the proof, until I saw literally your jaw being broken. Like, because your words just didn't mean anything to me. Like, this is such awful behavior towards a fellow woman in the industry, but men will disappoint you. Always. And this is why, you know, men are like, oh, well, I have loads of sisters, so I have respect for women. And, like, I respect women because, like, I respect my mum. It's clear that men don't respect women just because they're in close proximity to a lot of women. Because you could literally be in a massively female-dominated space and still have zero respect for women. So, I don't know how anyone's taking this response seriously yet, and we're 2.5 minutes in. We have about 8 minutes left.
I fucking should have. Reading it back now, it is super clear that she was using humor to cope, and that is perfectly fine and valid. But at the time, I genuinely interpreted these messages as a messy breakup. Maybe he cheated, maybe they got into a drunken argument that...
The worst things a human being can do to you. Stick with that.
Badly, I could have never imagined what she was actually going through behind the scenes. A lot of Kayla's own friends and family have said they had no idea what she was going through. I wish I could go back in time and been there for her, tried to help her. I wish that I would have asked more questions, but frankly, I didn't feel comfortable doing so. First and foremost, she obviously wasn't ready to talk about it yet based on her last message. And secondly, me and Kayla Malik just weren't close friends. I don't say that to take away from her feelings about this. I don't say that to undermine what she went through. We've only met a couple of times. We collabed in 2023. She guest starred on a podcast with me in 2024, and we hung out at our mutual friend's Halloween party back in October. We've never hung out one-on-one. We've never had a deep conversation. It's
also like the minimization of their friendship. That's not the point. The point is that you dated someone who is an abuser. Now convicted. Spoiler alert. After those texts that weren't very vague at all, yet they were covered in comedy, but they were quite clear in what they were saying. And you then heard his version of events, and at no point did you add two and two together. You don't have to be besties with someone to not date an abuser. Those things are not mutually exclusive. It's not like I'm not going to date this abuser because he was dating my friend. It's like I'm not going to date this because he abuses women. Like even if it's just strangers. This is what I mean by proximity to women doesn't make you have respect for women, clearly.
Really didn't know her that well to be able to interpret these messages and have a better idea of what was actually happening behind closed doors. And I wish more than anything I did, because I should have never gotten involved with this, but I did not know what she was going through. I really fucking hate to admit it, but I did have a brief friendship with Evan Johnson that started and ended well before I ever learned about any of the violence that was going on behind the scenes. He reached out to me a couple of days later asking me for advice and told me the same exact story that Zach Sellers believed and then repeated on the Be Better podcast, which was that the relationship was toxic. He reached out to me a couple of days later asking me for advice and told me the same exact story that Zach Sellers believed and then repeated on the Be Better podcast, which was that the relationship was toxic. They both said things and did things that they shouldn't have, and a bunch of other stories that genuinely made me believe Evan Johnson was the victim in the situation. He told me that he moved back to Nashville to go to church and get therapy and try to become a better man, and he seemed vulnerable. He seemed real, and he seemed scared that Kayla was going to get online and start telling lies about him.
So once again, we don't believe women unless they literally have video evidence of the altercation. Just because a guy is straight and attractive, like, there was actually no need for the friendship. You could have literally just ignored the text. If it was so messy that you should have just been like, I'm not involved. But instead you befriend this guy after she texts you and says he did the worst things imaginable to me. I don't know, I'm just confused as to why people so far think that this is like a good response. Because when you go into the comments, people genuinely think this is a good response. I hate to break it to you, but if you think this is a good response, then you're a f***ing idiot. Like, you have no brain cells.
Knew exactly what to say to relate it back to a situation that I was in that made me have sympathy for him and be on his side. I feel so fucking dumb for ever believing him, but when I was in a similar situation, all I cared about was anybody treating me like a human being and hearing me out and being there for him, so that's what I tried to provide. We became closer, we would start FaceTiming, he was very suicidal and depressed, and eventually he told me that he wanted to come out to LA to escape and get his mind off of things for a weekend, so I invited him out. All we did was sit on the couch, order food, watch movies, but over the course of the weekend, I slowly started to notice that some of his stories were not exactly lining up. There were inconsistencies, and I started to get worried that I might be on the wrong side of things, and that was confirmed as soon as Kayla noticed that he was at my house and I had to lie to her. I didn't know what to do. I realized then that I was in the middle of a very fucking messy situation that I should have never gotten involved with in the first place.
You realized then? You didn't realize before that? You realized then?
This man was staying with me, and I didn't know how to get out of it. Later on that night, I told Evan straight up I was uncomfortable, I was upset that I had to lie to her, and that we could not hang out any further. He respected that, and the next morning, he flew home. As soon as Evan left LA, I immediately started making myself unavailable to him because I recognized that he was not the man he was telling me he was. But it wasn't until a month later, when Kayla uploaded her video, He Doesn't Love You, that I actually got to sit and watch how much of a monster he is. My jaw was on the floor for all 2 hours of that video. I could not believe what I was watching and seeing. The horrendous verbal abuse, the violent physical abuse. I was shocked. I was ashamed for not taking me and Kayla's conversation more seriously. I was embarrassed for ever believing that man's lies and manipulation. And I was angry with myself that I ever allowed that man into my home. It was horrifying, and I'm so proud of Kayla for being able to speak up. A couple of days later, I started getting messages on Instagram from Zach Sellers, Evan's best friend, basically warning me that Evan had lied to both of us and telling me that I should cut him off. I didn't see these messages at first until he made a public TikTok accusing me of still supporting Evan behind the scenes, and I messaged him right away because I was confused. His messages genuinely seemed nice. He seemed like he was checking in, warning me to make sure that I was okay and have cut Evan off because he knew that we were both told the same exact lies and stories from Evan. The only reason he even knew I was involved at all was because he was physically with Evan as his best friend, supporting him every single day. It took me 3 days with Evan to realize that something wasn't right here. It took Zach 3 months. So to act this way privately and then to get online as if I'm some monster was wild to me. What started off as a video of James Charles supporting Evan Johnson behind the scenes snowballed into more videos, more content, and then live streams. Every single night Zach has been live asking.
Now that we've like fully mentioned Zach Sellers, I had a really bad vibe from Zach from the get-go. I don't know, sometimes I just get a bad vibe and then I sound like one of those people that are like, I've knew, you know, like I don't want to be the oh actually person, but I'm kind of the oh actually person. I don't know, I just sometimes get a bad vibe from someone. But it's kind of like the Be Better thing. Like, I don't particularly like him, but broken clock right twice a day. I guess Zach Sellers was also like broken clock right twice a day about the James Charles thing, but he's also not a great person. I'm going to get into that soon. He was massively using this for clout and views. He even wanted to do merch about this whole like James Charles thing, and he would go on live all the time and beg for galaxies and do the typical like panhandling stuff. So do I think he was using someone's abuse for clout? Yeah, allegedly. Like I said, broken clock right twice a day. Just because the message is coming from not a great person doesn't mean the message isn't great. We just have to like sort through it a little bit. What was that? That looked really bad.
Galaxies in exchange for showing more receipts. He's been asking his followers for their cities and locations so he can go on tour with Kayla after this is all over with. He's even been asking for donations on PayPal to fund a merch line. This has nothing to do with getting justice for Kayla and everything about making an opportunity for himself. And
100% agree with James on that. 100%. This is the first time me and him agree. I 100% agree on that.
One came along when Be Better flew him out to Canada for their podcast interview. Aside from the timeline that I just told you guys, everything else in that hour-long episode is complete bullshit. To start rumors about somebody online is one thing. Unfortunately, I know that that comes with the job, but to publicly accuse them of prostitution is ridiculous. There is no proof, no evidence of any of the ridiculous claims that Zach is making because they did not happen, which is why I have no choice other than to take legal action. But before I do that, I want to quickly take a second and clear the air on some things that have really set me over the edge. First and foremost, Evan Johnson and I did not, in any way, shape, or form, have a physically relationship. We did not have sex while he was here, and I did.
Someone else, because I was talking about this to some other YouTubers behind the scenes, it's very interesting that he emphasizes we didn't have a physical relationship, because it could still mean that what Zach was saying about the FaceTimes and the sending of the nudes and stuff was still true. They just didn't physically have sex. Also, some people define sex as different things. So to emphasize we didn't have physical like encounters is very specific, and Zach did mention nudes being exchanged and like FaceTime calls, so we're kind of wording things a specific way. Let's hear that again.
Did not in any way, shape, or form have a physically relationship. We did not have sex while he was here, and I did not under any circumstances pay Evan Johnson for favors, not in person, and certainly not online through a secret OF account where I'm apparently funding his entire life. That is absurd.
Is absurd. I actually think that rumor is absurd. And I think that rumor came out after I filmed my last video, because my video was like 5 or 6 days ago. That is absurd. Actually, I wouldn't even think James Charles would do that. And that is far for me to even admit, but like I think that's almost too far for James Charles, actually.
Anybody's business, but I do have an OF account. I'm a grown adult. I barely use it, but Zach, if you would like to see, I will gladly send you a screenshot of my transaction history. I have nothing to hide, and I have not sent Evan Johnson $1 single. Zach claims to know all this information to be true because he pressured Evan into getting drunk and telling him what happened on the trip. I don't know if Evan lied to him to make the trip seem more fun and exciting, or if Zachy literally just made this up for funsies. I would like to believe that that isn't the case and that he was manipulated in this situation as well, but he claims to have seen a video on Evan's phone of him having sex with me. Zach, post it. If you have the receipt, if you have the video evidence, you can upload it. You have my full consent and permission.
Zach, I guess, post it. Post it then. I believe this as well. I don't think James would go so hard if he believed that the evidence was real. And he wouldn't be like, yeah, post my tape to prove that there is no tape if there actually was a tape. So I believe this 100%. I think the beginning is bullshit to me. The end, I can agree with James on a few things. I think the beginning is like you were just desperate and there was a hot guy messaging you and they were looking for pity and sympathy, and that was a great time for you to swoop in. Big James Charles, you know, the LA house, and you swooped in and then you realized you were in too deep. That's what I think. And then the back end, like the OF stuff, the prostitution, the tape stuff, I mean, I'm assuming all of that is not real, but I actually didn't talk about any of that in my old video, like my last video, so I think I'm in the clear.
Far worse posted to me online that I didn't consent to, go right ahead. But you can't, because there is no video of something that did not happen. Be Better doesn't even stand by these claims because he's now added a disclaimer to their interview that says he was...
So he says, the views and allegations expressed in this interview are solely those of the interviewee. The content is presented in the public interest for the purposes of discussion and awareness. No statements have been verified, and I do not assert any claims as fact. I am acting solely as the interviewer and publisher, not the source of these allegations. I mean, I think Be Better is on the verge of having like a cease and desist, and I think this is like a way to curb that. Which, yeah, I mean, if he's not making any statements and he's just letting someone else make statements, then should he be facing legal repercussion? Probably not. But
able to verify a single thing that Zach said. Second, there's a rumor going around that I paid Evan Johnson's bail. This is not true. It is a public record that it was Evan's family who got him out. Kayla's own sister has confirmed this.
JC did not bail out EJ. I know who did, and I cannot say anything.
Third, there's a new narrative started by Be Better that I am trying to silence anybody that talks about this issue. First and foremost, this is literally the biggest thing on TikTok right now. I don't understand how anybody could possibly assume that I'm trying to silence people, but Be Better made a video basically saying that I'm working with YouTube behind the scenes to manipulate their algorithm and get their video hidden. I truthfully wish this was possible. I've been making content for 8 long years now. There are videos on YouTube with 5, 10, 20 million views that if I could have gotten them removed, I would have. But Be Better, I know you said you're having your lawyers reach out to YouTube, so YouTube, I give you my full permission to release any communications between myself or my team to you guys about this matter because, again, they don't exist. Zach has also now made a video claiming that my lawyers have...
Yeah, I also don't believe that. I think a lot of the time people cope with the YouTube is shadow banning me, YouTube is suppressing this, like... I think people think they're too important. YouTube has way too much content being uploaded on a daily basis, on a minute by minute, second by second basis to be concerned with your video. And no, I don't think YouTube is shadow banning people. I don't think YouTube is suppressing content. I think sometimes the algorithm strikes right and sometimes the algorithm strikes wrong. And I think sometimes people get in their heads that like, this video I'm posting is going to be a banger and it's going to do crazy numbers. Like Be Better probably thought with the Zach Sellers interview, like he thought he was reigniting a new bi sister, 20 million views type of a situation, and it didn't. Like, it did well, but it didn't do incredibly well. And then I think people get a bit... I did see the message that he posted. You know, there was a screenshot of like people saying that when they clicked on the video it said like error or like you couldn't watch it. So I was like, that's pretty interesting. That could be a weird, like, sometimes that happens if there's like a copyright claim in motion or like a copyright strike in motion. So I thought that might be interesting, but that would be like a copyright claim, copyright strike situation rather than like a YouTube suppressing a video thing. The only time I heard that happening was when Tati removed Bi Sister from YouTube. She took the video down because at the time YouTube came to her and said to take it down, but they didn't suppress it and they didn't take it down. They just said, you take it down because it's causing too much mayhem on the internet. And it actually was, but I don't think the Be Better Zach Sellers interview and the Bi Sister video can be put in the same sphere.
To him, to threaten him, to silence him, and to offer him hush money. This is not true. Zach, my lawyers cannot contact you directly, so instead they emailed your modeling agency because that is the only contact.
They said, hi Stephanie, apologies for the Friday evening email. My firm represents James Charles Dickinson and I would love to have a frank discussion with you at the earliest convenience regarding your client Zach Sellers. In the alternative, please feel free to redirect me to Mr. Sellers' legal representation. Many thanks. Priya.
You have listed. There was no threat, there was no offer, they were simply asking for the contact of your lawyers. I told you I was going to sue you, and this is what the beginning of that process looks like. It really sucks that at this point I am left with no options other than to pursue a case. As for Kayla, I am so fucking sorry that I ever got involved in this. I should have never believed his lies and manipulation. I should have never even responded back to him in the first place, and I'm sorry for hurting you. I genuinely do wish you the absolute best of luck, and I really hope that you get justice for what that man put you through.
I can agree with that, for sure. Someone said this was actually a really good response, in my opinion. 559,000 likes. I mean, I don't think it was a good response. I think it was a good response kind of towards the back end of the video, but not the beginning of the video. This is actually one heck of a response, and he came with receipts. I mean, there weren't that many receipts. This fixed my attention span. Yeah, he speaks at a really good pace, which is great. Someone said this seems genuine, to be honest. Zach Sellers, a lawsuit behind you. Not a single stutter. Someone give this man an award. Award for what? Like, he still allegedly messaged minors in the past. He still did his thing. Bi Sister still stands. That whole thing still happened. Like, I don't know why people think that him just calling people fat on TikTok live means suddenly this man is like an angel sent from above. He's not. I don't know. Like, let's all be for real for a minute, you know? Now, Be Better has been posting about this on TikTok. So he posted this straight after the interview that he did with Zach Sellers. So this is the first video that he posted.
So I'm just sitting in my hotel room, my massive hotel room by myself. And I just finished with my interview with Zach Sellers, and we discussed James Charles' connection to this entire Evan Johnson, Kayla Malik case. And I'm sitting here alone with my thoughts, thinking about how insane it is that this person has gotten away with so much. And I have to be completely honest with you guys. I was kind of part of the group that felt like maybe he's grown as a person. Like, honestly, and I know, trust me, I know how stupid that sounds now that I just said it out loud. But I kind of was. I can't say that I honestly fully went deep into understanding all of his allegations and all of his controversy. I'm not a chronically online person, even if it seems like I am. Like, I really have to do research for my videos because I don't know who these people are. Like, even people were like looking to Kayla Malik and Evan Johnson. I was like, who are these people? Like, I was starting from scratch. And there are just so many layers to how disturbing this is. But I just really feel the anger vicariously through Kayla, because you guys can imagine your friend swooped in and stole your ex-boyfriend from you or whatever, and then hid it from you. Like, that's already just so infuriating. And then when you account for the fact that Evan was physically abusive to the point of almost unaliving her several times on several occasions, 20-year-old girl, that James knew that, and then actively pursued a physical relationship with him behind Kayla's back, tried to cover it up. It's like crazy. And it's even crazier if you guys go back and you watch some of his videos where he's like, he changes his voice to like this. And this isn't how he talks in real life, by the way. But he goes, and I've taken accountability, and it sucks that people can't realize that. And I've grown as a person, and I've changed, and I've understood the power dynamics at play here. He's learned nothing. He has learned absolutely nothing. If any of you had grace for him left, it should be gone after this. And I'm not stupid. I know that this interview and this story and my videos are not going to change anything. They're not going to change the way that he feels. I think it's just the nature of how fame works. You're like a bank. Once you get too big to fail. I don't think anyone is actually like going to successfully take down James Charles, but it's just like, you got to think sometimes, like, how does someone like really look themselves in the mirror and be happy with who they are when they do stuff like this, when this is how they conduct themselves privately behind the scenes. Like, why is having everything not enough for some people? Like, I really don't get it. I felt like for me, once I hit 1 million followers, I was like, that's cool, that's nice, I can relax now. I don't need any more than that. That is like already more than any person should have. Like, to even put into context, the number of 1 million is incomprehensible to my brain. I'm like, I'm done. I think about having an apartment when I'm older, and to be honest, I still live at home with my parents, and that's fine. I'm not complaining. I know that's a privilege too, but I'm like, I just want I want a nice apartment. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I want a normal apartment, a nice one, but nothing crazy. And then I'm like, I'm done. I want a nice car that works, but I don't need like a McLaren. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like content. And then there's people like James who just want more and more and have everything. They have all the fame you could ever want. Like, does your life change from having 35 million followers on TikTok to 40 million? Like, does it really? I absolutely didn't feel anything.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really care about this video, so I'm just gonna not watch that anymore. Then we have this video. James Charles is silencing us.
So I just wanted to let you guys know that James Charles is officially trying to get my video banned from YouTube. I have now received several messages.
Yeah, I see why James Charles is able to pursue legal action even against Be Better, because saying that outright as if it's a fact is incomprehensible. Like, at least throw in one allegedly. It's like throwing in like a Hail Mary, like throw in a allegedly just to be safe. But no, it's like James Charles is 100% trying to get our video taken down. Like, how do you know that? You don't. Like, this is what happens when TikTokers go over to YouTube. It's just not real. Like, don't say that.
People saying that they either cannot access the video or when they search it, it doesn't pop up.
That's got nothing to do with James Charles. Like, don't say James Charles is trying to have our video, yada, 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 because some people can't watch it or are getting an error, because that is how you get yourself in legal trouble. And as Mr. Be Better with like the masters and the degree from and the MBA from whatever, you should know that.
Include screenshots here. I cannot say I'm surprised. YouTube.
Yeah, something went wrong. Please like, that's kind of got nothing to do with James Charles. But even if it did, like, even if he was trying to take the video down, unless you have evidence and proof of him communicating with YouTube and saying, take down this video, and YouTube saying, bet, you saying that is low-key defamatory.
At the end of the day, it is a corporation, and the products that they sell is the content, and their true customers are the advertisers. And James Charles makes them millions of dollars every year. He's probably the #1 creator in the beauty space. If you think that he doesn't have the ability to call in a favor at YouTube to just say, hey, guys, can you turn the volume down on this one post? Because it's mutually beneficial for both YouTube and James for him to continue to be able to make the money and for them to, in turn, protect his reputation. Can't say I'm surprised. Super disappointing to know that YouTube, I guess, supports domestic violence, supports...
I would be so terrified to say that, because that's low-key defamation against YouTube and Google to say, oh, low-key, they're, like, in support of domestic violence. Like, that is a leap, jump, stretch, reach. Like, I hope you stretched before you said that. And I hope you don't regret that in the future, because saying that against Google is crazy. Like, what you said about James Charles, kind of defamation. What you say about Google, also defamation.
It's super disappointing to know that YouTube, I guess, supports domestic violence, supports silencing victims, supports protecting predators. Very upsetting. You can be expecting to receive a letter from my lawyer in the morning. And beyond that, as a result of this, I'm going to be posting the entire interview on TikTok. It is 55 minutes, but I think it's worth...
That is the boldest thing I've heard someone say. Google will be hearing from you because some people are getting an error message. And you think that means Google is supporting James Charles and domestic violence. Like, that is the leap that you leaped to. I don't know, this is crazy. And then people wonder why I don't. Like I said, broken clock right twice a day. Some of the things they said in the interview, great. They brought attention to this. But overall, both Zach Sellers and Be Better give me the most awful vibe ever.
Watch. For those of you saying, where's the proof? Watch the video. There is an inordinate amount of proof. And I have to be honest, it's pretty disappointing to see the radio silence. I mean, on behalf of James, I'm not surprised because he's in a little bit of a pickle here. In order for him to acknowledge the situation, he would have to admit what he did. And that would make him look very bad. To give a little bit of other insight, I had a conversation with James Charles about a year ago, and I asked him if there was anything he learned from his controversies, we'll say, and he said the #1 thing that he learned and the #1 mistake that he made, in his own words, was ever addressing anything to his audience. And it's just kind of funny looking back on that conversation, knowing that it wasn't the texting of the underage kids that he felt was something he regretted. It was the acknowledgement of posting videos, discussing it, and apologizing, because that's really when the stories blew up. So unfortunately, it looks like he hasn't learned in terms of modifying his behavior, doing some self-reflection, and becoming a better person. Instead, the only thing that he's learned is how to better cover up his behavior, which looks like he's going the route of staying silent, hoping it will blow over. And clearly it's working relatively well, because there have been very few notable people other than Michaela Testa and Bryce Hall. Thank you guys for speaking about the situation. And I just hope that you guys will watch the interview and make your own judgment with the information. That's all I ask. Thank you.
In the comments, someone said, I don't get how backlash for some guy abusing his girlfriend falls on James Charles. After his response, I feel like you're just lying, kid. Who even are you? Post the receipts, it's not that hard. Stop using Kayla for money. Yeah, give receipts if you're going to make claims. Jeffree Star tried to tell you. So people are now not quite on his side anymore, which I hate the like flip-flopping when stuff like this happens. And then he posted a video called The Downfall of James Charles. Let's peek into the comments first. Kay said, "This is not your story, it's Kayla's. I don't know why the internet and 3 men felt the need to start rumors and get involved. Just stop. You don't seem very trustworthy. You have no receipts at all. He gave you full permission to put everything out there, and you haven't. He gave you permission to post the receipts, babe." So Zach is able to befriend Evan. He believed his lies. He supported him when he was feeling depressed and suicidal, etc. But James did the same things, and only James is in the wrong. Okay, so this one's not going over quite as well.
Okay, so the sentence I'm about to say is going to sound like a lie, but I assure you it is 100% the truth. So James Charles has officially hired a former federal prosecutor in an attempt to bully and intimidate the person that interviewed Zach into silence. He has also indicated that he's going to be publicly responding to the allegations very soon, so I thought I could come on here and predict for you guys exactly what James is going to say, because if I can predict it, then I can reveal it for what it really is, which is a well-orchestrated attempt to regain public favorability by shifting the narrative in his favor, as opposed to...
Surely you could have filmed this while not playing with your dog outside. Like, every other video you've done has been sat down, professional, and now you're suddenly like in a massive hotel room on your own and playing with your dog. Like, get to it, sister.
A genuine recounting of what actually happened. So the thing about James Charles is that he's had a lot of experience navigating public scandal. He's had experience responding in a way where he articulates his side of the story with screenshots and receipts in a video called No More Lies. And he also has an experience responding in a more vulnerable way where he took accountability and apologized for his actions. I believe that video was called Holding Myself Accountable. So he's learned how to navigate this properly. He's also learned which one went over well, which we all know No More Lies actually was fairly successful in shifting the narrative in his favor. This is why I do not expect him whatsoever to come out with a full-throated apology video, which he understands because the internet lacks the ability to perceive nuance. It will simply be viewed as a full admission of guilt. So what he's really going to do is he's going to strategically select receipts and screenshots and text messages to paint a timeline for you to influence public.
Completely agree with that. Like, that's spot on exactly what happened, and it's what he does really well, which is why I called them reverse receipts. This is the first time I'm seeing this video as well, so it's interesting that we both, me and Be Better, both kind of assume the same thing. It's like these weird, out of context, plucked out reverse receipts is what I call them, to show a timeline that kind of is manipulated.
And introduce doubt as to if the allegations were really true or not. And the timeline is obviously going to focus on the angle of him being an empathetic friend and simply being taken advantage of and manipulated by Evan as well. So first, I believe that James will completely deny having any prior knowledge of the abuse, and he will also flat out deny that the relationship with Evan Johnson was ever sexual.
Dead on, yep. Absolutely what happened, which is kind of crazy.
It doesn't need to be fully convincing. It just needs to be enough to introduce doubt in the mind of the audience and continue his image of innocence, which will be portrayed throughout the entire video. Next, I think that James will actually emphasize that Evan was suicidal and that James was simply just trying to help as a friend. I think that he will draw parallels to his own experience being canceled, where his mind went to a very dark place, and that he was simply trying to assist a friend through a life experience that he had also shared. This is
spot on.
Obviously an attempt to shift the narrative away from his actions and toward his good intentions, which he's hoping will evoke sympathy and prevent him from having to take accountability. I also think that he will bring up receipts of him messaging Kayla at Coachella, expressing how awful he felt after he had watched her video, checking in to make sure that she's okay, and I believe this is ultimately why he's been blowing up Kayla's phone, purely with the intention of screenshotting it and including it in his manipulative timeline for his response video. I also believe that he's going to portray his extended silence as a selfless act that he did to simply protect Kayla and avoid giving Evan Johnson's legal team any ammunition to use against her. He's gonna himself as a martyr who experienced all of this public scrutiny and kept his mouth shut purely because he cares about Kayla so much and didn't want to negatively impact her chances at getting justice. But we all know the real reason he's been silent is because he's been buying himself time, trying to bully and intimidate, and in some cases even pay people off behind the scenes to see if he can get rid of this in a way where he doesn't have to publicly respond, which is ultimately going to require for him to take some accountability and admit something, because we know for a fact Evan Johnson was at his house. Whether or not he's able to convince people that nothing happened and they simply baked cookies and went to church together, I'm not sure how gullible people are, but he is doing everything he can to avoid giving people too many details, because either way he looks like a very, very bad friend in the scenario. And finally, I believe at the end he's either going to threaten or announce some type of legal action to create the illusion of innocence, because by announcing a lawsuit he's going to manipulate the audience into thinking he is so confident in his innocence and everything people are saying is untrue. But in reality, the legal action is much more about psychological manipulation and intimidating others from speaking out, as opposed to him actually seeking justice. So when you eventually do watch his response video, please view it with a critical eye and understand that you are viewing a meticulously crafted effort to alter public perception that was likely designed by a team of lawyers and public relations professionals who literally do reputation management for a living.
That was pretty spot on. I will give him that. Pretty spot on. The only thing James didn't include was obviously the blowing up Kayla's phone afterwards to be like, oh my god, I just watched your video, blah blah, but he didn't include any of that. Kayla posted that Evan was convicted, which is so incredible to see, actually. And there's this TikTok that says, I won. A lot of these use sounds that are copyrighted, so I'm not going to play them, but yeah, so she did win. These are getting a bunch of views, and I think everyone's just like incredibly supportive of Kayla, which is so nice to see. Now, Evan posted on his Snapchat as the court case was kind of coming close, and I just want to show you how deranged this man is. Bear in mind, this man just got convicted. Okay, so he's guilty. Guilty as charged. It's been a minute, Snap. Missed you guys. Like, literally thirst traps. You know what I mean? Like, missed you guys. Time to lock back in. Oh, no, you mean time to get locked the fuck up. Shandy said the jawline. Hello, how you been? From CC. Someone said, all it takes is one video and you switch up so fast. This has like 2 million views.
I have to explain to James how.
This is one of the friends of Kayla's, I believe, who is speaking out about the James Charles statement.
This is going to be my shortest video ever. Kayla did not have to explain to James how she was getting abused to make him believe it. Clearly, he had his mind made up because he chose Evan, who had no proof of ever being abused by her.
But then someone said, okay, but the way she texted made it seem like it was tea. At first glance, I wouldn't have thought he physically abused her either. She said he did the worst things a human being could do to you. Are you guys brain dead? Is that offensive? Do you guys like brain cells? Is that offensive? Are you stupid? Bro, she never told him that she was getting abused. She said he did the worst things a human being could do to you. It's not that far-fetched to assume an abuser manipulated more than one person, lol. Or maybe James Charles is just desperate. Not to defend him or anything, but you are talking as if they've been besties for years when James literally said they never even hung out one-on-one. Does that mean he gets to date someone's abuser? Because like I said, you could be a stranger to me, and if your ex is abusive to you, I'm obviously not going to be attracted to them. But this is what I mean by you could be a man with close proximity to many women, be surrounded by women every day, surrounded by women energy, and still pick an abuser over a woman. So this is why I don't believe it when men are like, I'm a good guy because I was raised by a strong mum and loads of sisters. Because I'm like, you could be in close proximity to women and still not respect them. Okay, so before the James Charles response video, he's on 40.5 and now he's on 40.8.
I believe that James will completely deny having any prior knowledge of the abuse.
I could have never imagined what she was actually going through behind the scenes.
And he will also flat out deny that the relationship with Evan Johnson was ever.
Okay, so it just goes back and forth between everything that Be Better said and the James Charles response, which I said was pretty spot on. His guesses were low-key common sense. I mean, it's not because people ate it up anyway. And people were like, he didn't stutter, as if he didn't have like 3 weeks to rehearse this. He literally just predicted that James would state the opposite of the allegations. Anyone with common sense can know that he would say, I didn't do this. Why are we acting like Be Better cracked the code or something? And then someone said, I wasn't that close with Kayla Malik, but you were close enough with her boyfriend that you had the urge to believe him first. It's so obvious to me he believed Evan over Kayla because he's an attractive man. Yeah, exactly. Didn't believe her when she tried to confide in him, but when a man do it, you believe him and let him in your house. That part, not to mention he met her 3 times and didn't believe her, when none of us have ever met this woman and we all believe her. This is what I mean. People aren't feminists. Bring back feminism. This is another response with 173,000 likes. I just want to show you guys these to show you that not everyone is on James Charles' side.
Why James Charles get on this internet line like that and everybody in the comments talking about, oh my God, I believe him. First of all, the fact that she sent him that message and he didn't even think that it was serious. I didn't know her like that, so I'm not going to take it serious. I will always believe my girls, even if we're not the best of friends, even if we don't know each other that well. If I have your number and we've texted and we've met on occasion, I'm going to believe you. I'm going to believe what you're saying at face value. And then on top of that, you broke friend code. The fact that you knew her, even if you guys were just a mutual, you knew who her man was. You knew exactly who the fuck she was dating. And the fact that you allowed that man to stay at your house, the fact that you had a friendship with your mutuals or your friends, man, who the fuck are you? Why are you talking to my man? Why are you talking to anybody that I've dated? That's weird. You're odd. You're strange. Now I gotta watch you as a person. Like, you talking to my nigga behind my back? Now I gotta, whoa, baby, if that was me. And then you're gonna talk about, oh, well, I didn't think all of these things were true. He's a man. You didn't believe your friend, but you believed the man? Talking about he was going to goddamn therapy. You knew he was motherfucking lying. And then you just got mad because he didn't give you what you want. Oh, that's why you're in the position that you're in. Because you believe the man. You didn't even probably check up on her to see what the fuck was going on. Because why do you have this man at your house?
And the part where Elijah here, said, the only reason you probably switched up on Evan is because you didn't get what you wanted. Allegedly, though. Allegedly. The comments. The can I have him now text he sent had low-key truth in it. Bingo. He didn't stutter. Baby, how many times has he publicly apologized? James Charles definitely rehearsed it in front of the mirror a few times. Why I kind of believe him? Because you're easy to manipulate. That part. Do not believe his value system. He wanted and didn't care who it hurt. He came for receipts. Non-relaying the messages between him and the abuser, though. Should be the top comment. For real, he was like, I was not friends with him, but he stayed at your house. Like, she said verbatim, imagine some of the worst things a human can do to you, and he didn't take that seriously. That's what I mean.
Y'all start to believe James Charles and say, oh my gosh, his video seems so genuine. He seems like he's telling the truth. Of course he's gonna seem genuine. Of course his video is gonna paint this perfect picture where James wanted to help someone who was dealing with mental health issues. James didn't know about any of this. Oh, he and Kayla weren't that close, so obviously he didn't think there was anything wrong with him flying her abusive ex out to meet him. Of course that video was gonna be perfectly calculated to make sure that he started gaining back the public side. So wait for Kayla to speak out. Wait before you believe what he's saying.
Someone said people not stuttering does not equal innocence. I completely agree. And then someone said, I commented same time next year on James's apology video. He deleted it once it got 50,000 likes. Do not let him deceive you. Yeah, I agree. This is almost 700,000 likes. Oh, there was a video that someone posted accusing Zach Sellers of being a PDF file that I literally have here because I was talking to Lily from the Do We Know Them podcast, and she sent it to me, and it says Zach Sellers is a PDF file by Devin Lowles. It says, I know I'm not the only one he would talk to. I hope others feel safe to come forward to. He's sick in the head, but it's now been deleted. This video isn't available in your country or region. If I find it, I will insert it in here. But if I didn't find it, he's accusing Zach Sellers of being a PDF file and like inappropriately messaging him when he was about like 14, 15. That's crazy that I don't have that, actually. Yeah, so that's all that has happened since my last video. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe with the bell icon for engagement. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.